At this time, I would like to call the Flint Board of Education's regular board meeting to order. Like I said, the time is 6:30. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. Vice President Perry,
Present.
Secretary Green, Treasurer McIntyre,
Present.
Assistant Secretary McNeil,
Present.
Trustee Walker,
Present.
Trustee Wright,
Present.
and myself present. Board members, it is now time to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance for everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Under God.
Liberty and justice for all.
I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes in batch from on the corrected minutes from February 17th, 2021's regular board meeting, the March 17th, 2021 regular board meeting, the April 14th, 2021 special board meeting, and the April 14th, 2021 board committee of the whole meeting.
So moved.
I'll support.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Are there any corrections? Seeing none, the motion to approve the minutes in batch will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Vice President Perry.
Yes.
Secretary Green is not present. Treasurer McIntyre.
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil.
Yes.
Trustee Walker.
Yes.
Trustee Wright.
Yes.
And myself, Cheryl McIntosh. Yes. The motion passes 6 yes, with one board member absent.
I'm here.
Oh, awesome, Ms. Green. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public regarding agenda items. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education bylaws 1370 are not obligated to answer questions, make statements or comments in response to issues raised by the public in general. Such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendations. Any public members wishing to speak regarding agenda items may raise their hand or submit their name in the chat to alert Stephen that you want to speak. Also, anyone who sent an email prior to today's meeting will have that read. At this time, I will ask Stephen, is there anyone who wishes to speak? Take him a moment, we will be patient with Stephen. Stephen will state your name prior to unmuting you, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please state your name again and your address for the public record when you begin to speak.
Good afternoon, board. I do have one individual who'd like to speak, and that would be Mr. Arthur Woodson. So I'll unmute him now. And Mr. Woodson, you are muted, so feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you are ready.
Yes, my name is Arthur Woodson, and I'm calling in. I see some disturbing stuff here. When we fought GISD for money that the school district supposed to have received, and they didn't want to give it to us, we fought long and hard about that. And at that time, we found that Mott wanted to own 6 schools. And we all got together, the activists and everybody, the pastors got together and decided that everybody sit down at the table and discuss this. That's when Mr. Lopez was here. And the sad part is that people were telling us that, you know, they're not having meetings and they're not having this and they're not having that. And then you hear about these meetings and these MOUs and all this behind the scenes. It's upsetting. We're tired of people making decisions for the community without the community being involved in those decisions. I understand working with I understand all that. But at the same time, we don't have to kiss nobody's butt in order to be able to get something done in Flint if we turn around and work together and do it together. That's the sad part about it. And then here's the sad part. Larry Watkins gave away the whole house June 5th, 2013, and the county was planning on taking over the district and the city. And the water hampered, the water messed all that up. And then we turned around, giving the city right back to the county and the stakeholders without any community input. And then when somebody on this board or anybody in the community tried to be transparent, the gatekeepers try to go after them. The people in the community is waking up and they are getting tired. And you all are taking the activists, the advocates, the pastors, the community for granted. Now, when we rise up and we start holding everybody accountable, don't start crying about this person likes to fight all the time, because we didn't try to sit down at the table with you and talk with you and work with you and make decisions about our community. If you're gonna build some schools, you've been working downtown and on these other sides, start on the north side. Build a school on the north side first, so that we can make sure that they working with us. Don't let them build schools down in the culture center and all that other stuff first. Start over on the north side. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I don't have any more comments in the chat or hands raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for endorsement.
Oh,
Can I please keep that in mind?
I'm here. Feedback. Okay. The public is reminded that you may submit your comments by email to FBOE@flintschools.org to have them read at the next meeting. Thank you. Now we will receive the superintendent's communique from Superintendent Stewart.
Thank you, Board President.
Yes.
Good evening, Board.
Good
Across
evening.
Flint Community Schools, we remain focused and united on ensuring our children feel safe to learn and grow academically, socially, and emotionally. As we approach the last few weeks of the school year, we have shifted back to distance learning out of an abundance of caution in our community to the safety and well-being of our scholars, teachers, and staff. Ensuring a safe environment where our children can thrive requires the commitment of the entire school community, and I appreciate the unwavering support we continue to receive from all of you. There are plenty of great things taking place across the district. Brownell and Pierce schools were selected as a Capturing Kids' Heart National Showcase School. Congratulations to both schools. Southwestern, we are proud to promote our Howard University course on environmental justice. The new class, called Environmental Studies and Justice, is in collaboration with the National Education Equity Lab. The dual enrollment program has roughly 10 students enrolled to date and is taught online through the Harvard Extension School, allowing scholars to learn safely from wherever there is an internet connection. Once students complete the course, they will receive a free college credit at Howard University. This is a great program and opportunity for our scholars, and we hope more will take advantage of it in the future. As we continue to prepare our scholars for whatever pathway they choose, be it college or career, we encourage the Board of Education, families, and community members to participate in the district's strategic plan discussion. Over the past few months, FCS parents, teachers, community leaders, and board members have contributed to the development of revising the strategic plan that will guide our district through 2022. As part of this work, various subcommittees viewed stakeholder feedback and gathered the district data needed to inform the revision. Special considerations were also made for the most urgent and long-standing needs of our district. The plan we developed was designed to ensure FCS scholars are positioned for success, and we want all community members to be a part of this effort. To that end, we will host a strategic plan discussion online via Zoom on Friday, April 23rd from 2 to 4 p.m. During this time, members of the community and parents will be encouraged to provide input to the district leaders and you, the Board of Education, as we make decisions about the future of Flint Community Schools. Please visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/Flint Community Schools to find the registration link and register by tomorrow, Thursday, April 22nd, to participate. Finally, as you may know, FCS is open for enrollment for the 21-22 school year. We are encouraging families looking to learn more about the Great Start Readiness Program, pre-K program, or to enroll a child at any grade level to visit flintschools.org and click on Centralized Enrollment. We will be in touch with parents regarding a parent survey to continue informing our enrollment efforts, and we'll share more details soon. Thank you to our board members for supporting our scholars. That concludes my communique.
Thank you. Okay, board members, I would like to now entertain a motion. And first of all, we're in new business, action items, and information reports. Board members, I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve action items in batch that were moved from the April 14th, 2021 Board Committee of a Whole meeting. Human Resources Committee, action items 1.6 through 1.7. Finance and Operations Committee, action items 11.3 through 11.5. Board Committee, action items 21.8 through 21.21. Academic Committee, action items 25.10 through 25.11.
So moved.
Second.
Support.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve all action items from the April 14th, 2021 Board Cow meeting. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Treasurer McIntyre.
So I'm glad that we discussed a lot of these things, and I hope that all of the comments have been noted about the different action items. The one thing that I was concerned about that I thought would need further discussion, and so I'm not sure I would like to have these put into batch, is the personnel recommendations and non-renewal of administrators' employment contracts. Specifically, I would like.
Are you talking about 1.7?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
so I'm
talking about 1.7, and I would have a particular question about that, so I'd like that to be separated.
So am I hearing you making a motion to separate action item 1.7 from the rest of the batch?
Yes.
Okay, does she have support for that motion? Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded that we approve removing action item 1.7 from the batch. Are there any questions?
No, I don't have a question about that, but I do have one I would like to have removed also.
Okay, seeing none, the motion to separate action item 1.7 from the batch at this time we will take a roll call vote to see if you accept that motion. As I call your name, vote, say yes or no to approve or not approve. Vice President Perry,
Yeah.
Secretary Green,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee Walker,
Yes.
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
and myself, that would be a yes. So the motion passes 7 yes to separate action item 1.7 personnel recommendations from the batch. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the other items excluding action item 1.7 in batch. Could I get a second to accept these in batch, excluding 1.
We already have a motion and it's been seconded.
Not to accept this batch, she stopped it because I thought she separated 1.7, but if we have a motion and it's been approved, so are we approving everything else? Is that what,
No,
is that,
No. I have it
I
on the
didn't-
separation.
I thought it was on the separation. I was dealing with that first, so now I'm asking, do we
You don't
accept?
You don't have to have a motion to separate.
I'm not sure about that, but I thought I did if we had already had them in batch. Why wouldn't it have to be separated if she doesn't want to include them in the batch? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I might be a little green on that. So are we accepting the rest of the items in batch?
Danielle,
Okay. Okay, so Ms. Laura, what is your motion now? You wanted action item 1.7 voted on separately? You're muted. I can't hear you, Ms. Laura.
Yes, I did want to vote to separate it, to have a separate discussion and vote. But I believe also that Trustee Green is trying to also make a suggestion or to separate another item. So I don't know.
Trustee Walker had his hand up.
And Trustee Walker, yeah.
So I would say, okay, so we have an amendment to the main motion. But Ms. Secretary Green, what was your question?
For 21.18 to be separated.
21.18.
Yeah.
Let's see where. I didn't see that in batch grouping. I'm sorry. It was 1.6 to 1.7, 7.33, 11.5, 28 through 21.21, and 25.10 through 25.11. I didn't see one for 8.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
It's just a point of clarity, President. It's resolution 21.18, authorization of rapid antigen COVID testing. Is that the resolution, Ms. Green?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, so and the board members, if they are requesting to separate from and not take it in batch, all they have to do is request it. It doesn't require a second or a vote.
Okay, so she's requested it and she's in good standing, so we don't have to make a motion to separate that?
No, just remove it from the original motion, which is to take everything else in batch.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Ms. Laura. Ms. Laura, are you in favor of the friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we still have a motion on the floor, and the motion is to deal with action item 1.7. Am I correct on that, Monica?
Yep.
Because
You have two board members that have requested to separate. Action
yes.
item 1.7 is trustee McIntyre, and Secretary Green has requested 21.18. Is there any other discussion? No other.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Board Member Mike Neal, I would like to separate 11.4 for discussion.
Okay.
So noted.
And
Okay. Who is? Go ahead,
Agent Walker.
Mr. Walker.
sorry, I was just going to say my point was a point of discussion when we get down to 2118. So I'll hold until then.
Okay. Okay. Now, so we've had several things separated. Monica's thrown off. We're still on. I'm still at action item 1.7. Did we close out discussion on 1.7?
There's no discussion. Your main motion is still to take these items in batch. That was Trustee Perry's comment, which that is what resulted in discussion, was the separation. So all you do as a board is recognize it and then still go back to the main motion with the separation of these 3 items.
So at this point, we're separating action item 1.7, action item 21.8, and what else was that?
11.4.
And 11.4. So we're recommending that these items be separated from the batch. Laura made the original motion, so I would ask for a friendly second to the amendment.
Second.
To make sure. Okay, I'm just making sure we all agree on that. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to make the motion to accept the remaining action items in batch. Do I have a second to, I'm making a motion to accept the remaining items in batch. Do I have a second? To accept those things, except for the ones that have been separated.
Second.
Okay, we are ready to take a roll call vote, I do believe. Is that right, Monica?
Correct.
And I could not make a motion. Laura made the motion and it was properly seconded. I misspoke. Okay, now we're going to take the roll call vote to accept these items with the exclusions. Vice President Perry,
Yes.
Secretary Green, Secretary Green, you're muted. Maybe we
Yes.
lost her. Okay, there she is. Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee Walker,
Yes.
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
and myself, that'll be a yes. So the motion passes 7 yes. Okay, now at this time, I guess, am I supposed to go back and address 1.7, or are we supposed to just leave that alone, Monica? Because I'm not exactly clear on.
You go right back to the top of that agenda and you address 1.7.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, Ms. Laura.
So in reviewing action item 1.7, we did have a closed meeting session, and given the information that we were given, I would like to request through the president a question to the superintendent about one of the individuals who was talking about corrective action plans, and there seemed to be like a conflict between what was said by the party involved and the superintendent. I want to know, have there been corrective actions? And
We can't, just 1 second, Ms. Laura, I don't know if we can discuss specifics as it pertains to disciplinary actions. Is that what you're saying? Because you said something about corrective actions. I don't want to get us in trouble in an open meeting. I think 1.7 is the layoff slipping of the principals, if I'm not mistaken. Does your question pertain to that?
Yes.
Okay, well, can you?
I would just like some documentation to from the superintendent or some insurance, because it's been my understanding that in the past that if we have decided not to renew contracts or ended contracts for whatever reason, that we need to follow due process and all of the policies. And I'd like to make sure that all of our T's have been crossed and our I's have been dotted in terms of procedure, so that there aren't any, you know, potential lawsuits or any cases brought against the board. I was a little concerned by what was said in the meeting in terms of one of the individuals who addressed the board, and so I think that we need further discussion or further documentation, or maybe, you know, some questions. If we have to go back into closed session, then that's what we have to do. But I'm not sure how much can be said, you know, openly, given that it involves personnel matters. But I'm not comfortable with this recommendation without further information. And it's not that I don't that I support or don't support. It's merely because I want to make sure that we're following the correct. We're doing the correct paperwork, documentation, corrective actions if necessary, all that kind of thing.
Superintendent, you care to speak to that? Is there any further discussion?
I'm not sure how to address this. Speaking because it is an employee's personnel file.
Okay.
And I think,
Okay.
Monica, does the employee have to request a closed session? I'm not sure on how to, because I know originally the employee requested a closed session. Monica, can you assist in this manner?
Yeah, Superintendent. Typically, if the board is requesting further dialogue in closed session, the employee does have to the right to be part of the meeting. You can't have the closed session without the employee being present. They call the closed session. But if there's clarifying question, your question, you know, I don't know what you're seeking.
Georgina, can you assist in this manner, Ms. Rubin, please?
Yes, good evening, board.
Good evening.
Ms. McIntyre, in order to get any of your concerns addressed, board member McIntyre, not Ms. McIntyre, what would happen is we would go through with the motion of the non-renewal process. This is not the end all to be all. We still have until June 30th to address any of your concerns. So this does not mean that this is it, this vote and moving forward. This means that you are allowing the superintendent to move forward in her process with said employees.
And if the board, if
Okay.
we would need additional information, could we have a closed session in May to discuss additional?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Further conversation can take place.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna request to table the discussion to affirm, so we can get a date where we can discuss this, so we won't be in violation of any policy, rules, or regulations. Ms. Laura McIntyre, is that okay, since we separated out the batch and everything for you, that you get with Superintendent and Ms. Rubin and try to get this resolved? And I need a motion to table that. You're muted, Ms. Laura.
Okay. Point of information, would that meeting, that postponement keep us within the time frame, the window of compliance with, you know, authorizing the non-renewal? I mean, I understand that it's a formality, but there was, there's certain reasons for non-renewal, and this individual's was different than all of the others. And I just want to make sure again that we're in compliance and that we don't set ourselves up for potential litigation. So would this postponement and discussion take us out of the time frame for doing everything according to the deadlines?
No. As long as the employee has had their closed session by April 30th, which they've had their closed session, and they've been properly notified at all markers, we are still within our time frame to move forward.
So if the board doesn't take action tonight, that doesn't put us out of our time frame, Ms. Rubin?
No, it does not, because the employee has been notified.
All right, Trustee Wright has her hand up. Are you done, Miss Laura? I didn't hear you, Miss Laura. Yes, shake your head because you mean Trustee Wright.
I guess.
I guess I'm a little confused. I thought we were trying to meet like 30 and 60-day deadlines. So this will not take us out of that, this will not cause us to miss the deadlines?
The 90, 60, and 30-day deadlines are March 30th, April 30th. We have met that deadline because he has already had his closed session. They have had their closed session. That is the deadline.
So, but I'm only speaking in terms of the board approving the action, not about them having their closed session.
The deadline is not about the board approving the action. The deadline is about the employee's rights to meet.
Okay, all right, thank
you. And be notified.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rubin. I guess next I'd like to address, what was the action item that Mr. Walker has separated? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Green, Secretary Green.
My question is not in reference to any particular person. It's more geared towards position being eliminated, or and I'm wondering, is that going to be part of the discussion that we're tabling, or should that be something that I ask more questions about right now?
I mean, we're speaking on it now. I don't see why you shouldn't ask your questions, Ms. Green.
Okay.
If you have, well, wait, because we said we're going to do a closed session because of the.
Hit my hand. You finna walk into my meeting.
Okay, so Ms. Green, you said you're going to hold your question.
If that's what I should do, because I know we're going to table it, I just want to make sure I'm going to be able to talk about this position eliminations that I'm hearing about, because I wasn't on the last meeting. I apologize. So I do have some questions in reference to a position, not a person, but a particular position.
Okay, is that something that you can speak to now then, Superintendent? So because we won't violate anybody's situation. Miss Perry shaking her head no, so I guess let's table this table. So let's leave that there. Okay. Is that what you're saying, Perry? Because I saw you shaking your head no.
If there's going to be discussion about a position and board secretary, you did slip and say her name.
I don't have a name, do I? I don't.
Oh, I heard a name. I'm sorry. But anyway, this is closed session conversation. So whenever they set up a meeting for us to meet, then that's when you get your opportunity. So my recommendation would be just put all of 1.7. Don't be picking and choosing. Just put the whole thing in there and then you have your discussion. But that's my suggestion.
That makes sense.
Point taken, Vice President Perry. Okay. But at this time, so we're moving on to clarify the separation that I think where am I at right now, Monica? So much discussion has went on and I'm lost now.
11.
So where are we?
Okay,
We're on
so I now need to clarity. Are you proceeding with approving action item 1.7, non-renewal of administrator's employment contract?
And that's what I thought, where I thought we were at. So I don't think we are, because we just made a motion to table it. That's my understanding. Is that out of order? Ms. McIntyre, you made the motion. Is that what we're doing? Is that what the intention of your motion was? You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I keep doing the opposite. The intention of my motion was to figure out a way that we can be in compliance with the notification of the non-renewal of administrators' employment contracts, which we have to do every year. We always have a list of people just to keep our options open. And I get that, but there was one individual who was an exception, who there were differences, and they made a note of, they brought up several salient points in the closed session meeting that I think it raised questions that need to be answered before we can move forward with it.
Okay. At this time, since we decided to table the discussion, I don't think we should take any action on this, because you separated and we voted to table it. So at this time, I would think that we would not discuss this any further openly due to the sensitivity, and just hold off on any action.
Board President, can I ask the question? So Board Member McIntyre made a motion to separate it. Now, if we're gonna table it, doesn't someone need to make a motion to table it?
I would think so. And I thought that that's what I heard Board Member McIntyre say when I asked to table it. Yes, though.
But the issue I have with tabling,
it needs to be voted on. Right?
What'd you say?
I believe that we have to approve the non-renewal by the 30th, though. I think even though we've had a meeting where the employee is present.
That is correct.
So it is time sensitive, and we have to have some kind of a decision before the 30th. So is there some way can we have a special meeting? What do we do about this?
I'm sure, Superintendent, can we set up a special meeting to discuss this, since it's time sensitive?
I'm sorry, Ruben, I just heard you say that is correct. What are you saying that is correct to?
To the date of April 30th.
What about April 30th?
That is the date that the final decision has to be made. That is your 60-day mark. So in the past, we have been able to separate items out of the non-renewal.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rubin. I'm really confused right now. So is the April 30th for the employee to have his or her closed session, or is it April 30th the date that the board has to take action?
I'm pulling up the exact law.
Because that was the question I asked, because I thought it was about the timeline, not the employee.
It's my understanding that it is about the notification of the employee, but I am pulling up the exact law.
I'm sorry, Board Member McIntyre, what was your question that you originally asked prior to the question being asked of Ms. Rubin, did you inquire about a special board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, can you repeat your question again, Board Member McIntyre, please?
What needs to be done in order to get this information by the April 30th deadline? Can we convene a special meeting? It doesn't have to be long, but we do need to deal with this.
Okay, yes, ma'am, we can convene I can have Monica to poll the board. We can have a special board meeting, and if so, we need to have a closed session prior to the special board meeting. We can do so.
Then do I need to make a formal request, or how does that work?
So you would need to make a motion to table 1.7 and receive support from the other board members.
Okay, so I make a motion to table 1.7. I seek support from the rest of the board so that we can expedite a special meeting so that we are able to be in compliance and you know, thoroughly review the situation so that we don't have further liability or legal difficulties.
Second. Okay, it has been tabled and properly. It has been properly seconded, or motion to be tabled and properly set. Oh, you know what? I can't because I'm chairing, so I can't second it. I'm somebody else to second that. Okay, now it has been tabled and properly seconded, and now we have to take a roll call vote to accept this action to table. As I call your name, member. Pardon me?
There's still a
Yes,
motion.
Ms. Pierce.
You still have to allow question.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing there is none, at this time, I'll take a roll call vote. As I call your name, please answer yes or no to support this motion. Vice President Perry?
Yeah.
Secretary Green?
Yes.
Treasurer McIntyre?
Yes.
Assistant Secretary McNeil? Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil?
Yes.
Trustee Walker?
Yes.
Trustee Wright?
Yes.
And myself, Carol McIntosh. The motion to table this discussion passes 7 yes votes. Now, at this time, I'd like to address the other action item, 11 point what, Monica?
Action item 11.4, authorization to extend FY22 food service management contract agreement.
Okay, Mr. Walker, I believe that was
No.
your item.
That
No.
was me. That was McNeil. Madam
Okay, Ms.
President, Madam
Yes.
President, to our CFO, Ms. Dupree, is she available?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well,
In
and
the last meeting, we had had a conversation about reaching out to the food service manager, and we're supposed to have been talking about some of the things that the parents was concerned about, and that was a healthier meal, trying to eliminate this disparity. And I got a couple of calls and said that we need to talk about some of the food that's coming in that's for the kids are getting. So what kind of conversation did you have with him and ensuring that he put together some type of pathway or a map for further discussion of how can we get more healthier food into our school of Flint because of all of this disparity we are having? So if we can have that conversation, that's fine, or we can make a motion and move it, or do we have enough time to move it?
So Ms. McNeil, I had asked that you email me all your questions so that
Yes,
we can have an opportunity to give them to our food service director, and then he can have an opportunity to prepare a response. So if you get them to me with your questions, and he is more than willing to have a conversation, That way we can be prepared for it. And then maybe in the May board meeting or even at our May finance subcommittee meeting, we can have a presentation to show you what options and stuff are available. But I need those questions that you were going to share with me. That's what I asked at the COW. If you can send that to me in an email, and then that way we can be prepared to have the questions answered.
Hey, do you think that, because a lot of the community have questions, is there's any way we can have ask these questions? I can write them down because these are community questions during our Forum Friday. Would that help? And I can just send them to them then, because they do want to have question about food service that we're using.
I'm sorry, did you say there was a forum on Friday? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're having a community forum.
Okay, if that's if we send the emails to if you can, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. I can get with you and I can give you my email address and they can send all the emails to me, and that way I can have them.
Okay.
You can have that for the forum.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, you know, that the public here is addressing that issue. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing there is none. So this is still separated though? So now I need some clarity to know, is this considered to be tabled as well, since there's a open dialogue still going on as it pertains to this action item? So is that a motion to table from you, Dr. Joyce?
I would like further discussion, so maybe we could just table, but I don't want it to, you know, to hold up anything. If it's something that we can work on as we go, because this is something not going to happen overnight, having these discussions when you start to talk about menus and healthier eating. So, but I would like to keep it open for further discussion, and we can just keep it where it's at, and let's keep.
Board member
Okay.
McNeil, may I please can I make a comment, please?
Sure.
So this signing this food service management contract, renewing the contract so that we can serve food for the kids for next school year, that we can still have the conversation about the offerings. That won't stop having a conversation about offerings, but we got to get this paperwork turned into the state.
And that's understand. I appreciate you saying that exactly like that. And that's what I wanted to hear. So I have no other problem, no other reason to delay it. Thank you, Ms. Dupree, because that's what I want to hear. We can have further discussion because it's going to be a lengthy discussion. So that's fine with me.
Okay, and I have a question. Ms. Dupree, is there a deadline for this discussion? What's our deadline date?
A deadline for the discussion about the healthy foods?
Yeah, when do we have to let know what we're expecting before we sign the contract, or are we signing contract before we're standing on that? How would that work?
So this is a renewal of the contract that we have to send into the state so that we can have provide food service to the students. So we have to have all of these, once you guys approve this, then we have to send some other documentation to the state, and then they come back and say, yes, you're okay, you can now run your food service program. So everything has to be completed before the end of school. So the sooner that we can have this, the better, so we don't run up against a deadline.
So the end of school, the last day of school is what? You said because it has to be turned in by the end of school. So and the vendor.
So I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. I apologize. So once we. Okay, so once we take this form today, and if you all approve it, then we have to turn it back to the state. Then they have to turn around and send something else back to us. And then we have to sign another piece of paper and then turn it back. So it's a kind of lengthy process. So if we delay it, then we run the risk of not being able to serve food to the students for the next school year.
Okay. So we're moving on this. Is that what I'm hearing as a board, so that we can get our students fed?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so now, so go ahead, Ms. Green, you're muted.
Oh, I am sorry. Am I muted?
Not now.
Nothing show-
No.
Oh, okay. Just going forward, in support of what Joyce McNeil said, I hate when our backs are against the wall. And to me, this is one of those situations where we're in crunch time, and it happens so often.
Mhm.
I would like to see things get to us a little ahead of time so we can have time to vent and talk things out, not be under pressure to make decisions, without her questions being asked, my questions being asked, our comments being heard. And that happens too often. We need to do better with that.
And I'd like to say something as well, because if we signed the contract before we hash out the details, the vendor is not aware of any special requests. So then the vendor is not held liable to meet that standard, because we've signed the agreement before we got an understanding of the vendor.
Happens too often.
Madam President, if I may have a few words.
Yeah.
I think in the committee of a whole meeting, it was discussed that we were going to pass this forward because of the timeliness or the lack of time required to do this, but that there was a discussion that it wasn't satisfactory and that further discussion was needed. The idea was that this is already for, something that's already in motion, right? So the time to have made this decision would have been last year. And I think it sounds like we're in agreement that we need to have a bigger discussion about food service. This contract has already been signed. It's just a matter of renewing it for one of the years out of the 4 years. And so, like I said, if we're going to be making a change of plans, that discussion would have had to have happened much earlier in the fall. And so I'm glad to see people lifting this up as something important that needs to be discussed, because I think that in the future, not now because we have documents and deadlines to complete, like you said, Ms. Green, but I would really like to have us look at Sodexo, the contract, well ahead of time and evaluate that, and if we even are considering them as a food vendor, to have these healthy food discussions and other things that have been noted.
Okay. So the forum for this conversation, I think I heard you say, is for this Friday. Did I hear somebody say something about a
plan? The strategic plan meeting for the community is this Friday. And I think Dr. Joyce was suggesting that people might have comments or suggestions.
Okay, so I'm going to call upon the superintendent to ask, Superintendent, is there anything we can do to have this discussion and our other discussion so that we can get our contracts and our paperwork in on time, because we don't want some children go hungry, children that depend on these. I think we have to make a decision if we're going to table this, or are we going to move forward and because it sounds like she's trying paperwork in so we can get this going so we can feed our children. That would mean, does that mean move forward? Is that the pleasure of the board at this time?
The question I do have is that if we sign this contract, are we just really locked in with these vendors where we can't even make any changes whatsoever? If that is my whole concern, you don't lock me into this contract and then you say, hey, you signed the contract, and we'll find out that at the end of having these conversations, because my kids don't have to eat it, I know I would never sit down and eat the food. And so then the parents want to make the changes, and we lock into this contract and we talk about this open communication and parents and teachers and kids. I would like to make sure that we have in this contract some type of agreement that we're going to come back to the table and with some stipulation in it, you know, because we sign it as it is, it's a contract. And we have to start looking at these contracts, but you can renew a contract with some type of stipulation. Am I correct?
Mrs. Yes, Board Member McNeil, we do have the ability. When we had our conversation with Sodexo last week, we voiced that there were concerns. Mr. Williams was here at the COW. He understood that there were some concerns about the menu and what we serve to the children, and that he is more than willing to have conversations and hear what the public wants and what the board wants, and to try and make adjustments as necessary. So he is very open to it. So that's not a challenge. So if we can gather all the information that the questions and concerns that people have, then we can absolutely have a meeting and discuss it.
So can we have that commitment in writing, just for our records from him?
I will ask him for it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, Superintendent, I'm going to refer to you, and maybe Mo can help us, because so much, it's unreadiness. So at this time, I'd like to know which direction should we go with this, because I hear that we're still having an issue open. So I'm not knowing if we can vote to close that out with an open issue still lying on the table to address this.
So, Board President, just for clarity, Board Member McNeil asked for the action item to be separated out for discussion. And so
Okay.
if it's going to be tabled, then a board member would need to make a motion for it to be tabled. If it's not going to be tabled, then the board would go on with voting on moving action item 11.4 with approving or not approving action item 11.4, depending on the way that the board votes.
I'm not moving that it be tabled, for the simple fact I worked with the food program for over 14 years, and I know the time limit, you know, it's too close to that contract, and it takes them forever to get one piece of document back and forth. But I would like to have a stipulation in that contract, a written contract, that it's open for us to make these changes and have these dialogues. And that's not a big request, because we definitely want to hold it up, because I understand the food program, and I understand that the time delay, and once you miss it, you missed it. So I'm not trying to do that, but I do want to put that stipulation in there so we can start being open and fair to the public, because their kids have to try to digest that food, and it's not digestible.
So noted, Board Member McNeil.
Is it allowed for us to put a stipulation in there without speaking to the contract holder about our stipulation, though? I think that's where we're pretty much stuck at. And are we moving forward on this item tonight? So am I hearing we're moving forward? Unless Dr. McNeil is making a motion to approve with stipulations, which I don't even know if that's legal, but I think that's what I'm hearing.
But that's what I'm asking, you know, they're the administration, so they have to make this clear, you know, for us to make, we making ourselves clear. They have to make sure that it can be done.
So will we have to refer to legal then, Superintendent?
So, Mrs. Dunpray, this isn't the vendor's this isn't the vendor's actual contract.
Okay.
Correct, Mrs. Dunpray?
So this is the where we extend through MDE. We have to go through a process every year of extending the food service management contract agreement. And this is the portion where we work with MDE, and they have to provide what the prices are, what they're charging for the meals. They have to provide all this documentation, and MDE approves the contract, approves us renewing our contract for one more year. So
But
that's what this process
the vendor's
is.
actual contract, correct?
I beg your pardon?
But this isn't the vendor's actual contract.
We already renewed the vendor's actual contract in 2019.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because for me, I think that's the confusion. So this isn't the vendor's actual contract, and the vendor's actual contract isn't renewed until when, Mrs. Dumpre?
It's at the end of, we have 2 more renewals left. So that would be 22, 23 is
Okay.
when their contract would be left up.
Thank you.
But again, as I stated, they are willing to have conversations to discuss our concerns about the menu and the offerings that we have for the children. So I don't have a issue with contacting the vendor and asking them to potentially give us something in writing saying that they're willing to work with the community to change, to ensure that the offerings are what the board is looking for in the community.
Then how about if we have a special meeting and get something in writing and have that conversation before we approve this?
How soon can we have a conversation, Ms. Dumpre?
I have to get back. I don't know.
Because we're asking for.
The question I'm trying to see is that normally with those contract agreement with MDE, don't they have to also provide in that contract a menu, some type of menu in those contracts? And that's what I'm concerned about. If they present that same menu inside of that contract, it kind of make it difficult to change it, or something in writing saying that it's open for us to make changes to that menu.
So the menu has to adhere to the guidelines put forth by the food service approved menu items, and they can make adjustments to the offerings as long as they still adhere to the guidelines of what is legal to serve to the students. So with that information, I can talk to Sodexo, which stressed in our meeting last week, and even when they came to the COW, that they are very open to hearing what it is that we're looking for.
Then if they were open, we can have a special meeting before we vote on it. Seems pretty straightforward. Also, the guidelines for healthy meals are the bare minimum of what's required, just to have edible food. So it's, there aren't any guidelines about not going above the guidelines. And right now we're getting complaints about the food, and they're asking for a 1 cent per meal increase in their food budget for substandard, subpar food that nobody wants or can eat. So why are we renewing this?
At this time, we don't have another vendor to provide food to our children.
Okay. So,
I suggest that we can go forward the contract with a stipulation, a written stipulation to it. Since nobody else knows exactly if that's legal or not, but we can request that.
And I say we go forward, but we schedule a conversation or a meeting now and get it in writing now. Like, what's preventing us from that?
Because once we vote on this contract, I'm not sure, because now the water is really murky, but as it pertains to a contract, once you agree on it and it has been renewed, even if they talk to us or whatever, they are not obligated to meet our terms. I don't see why they're legally obligated if we're trying to make changes after the fact. So this is a gray area for us.
That's why we're requesting that this contract, we're approving it upon this condition, that, we have that conditional clause in it, that we come back and have further discussion about this menu.
Is that doable?
What's so difficult about that?
I don't know if that's doable. Is that doable, Superintendent?
If it's doable.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear on the question. Is it doable to table this until we get further clarity? Is that your question, Board President?
Ms. McNeil said that she wants to approve it with stipulations. And I'm wondering if we approve this,
With some
and we
type of
say we're
agreement.
approving it. I'm wondering, once we approve, are they obligated to meet any of our stipulations after? How solid is this agreeing with stipulation? How solid is that?
I don't know, Board President. I don't know the answer to your question, and I don't know if we can approve it with stipulations. And if we approve it with stipulations and the stipulations do not happen, then what happens?
Right, because
Then
it's
the
not
next-
binding. We can say,
Yeah.
we can,
So could we table this for a week and give them a week to meet with us or respond to us and put something in writing?
I mean, if we're gonna have a special board meeting, hopefully next week, I guess we can add this to the agenda.
Yes.
I just need a board member to make a motion to table it.
right. So Laura, are you making the motion to table the discussion? And if you are, we need a second for that as well.
Yes, I make a motion to table this discussion for the special board meeting that we're planning to also discuss the other issue. And with the understanding that Sodexo will be represented and present to answer questions and provide information, as well as coming up with some kind of written agreement before we vote.
Okay, it needs to be seconded.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, so there is none. At this time, the action item has been tabled and properly seconded. I will be conducting a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this. Vice President Pierce,
Yes.
Secretary Green,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee Walker,
Yes.
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. The tabled action passes 7-0. Okay. Now, Monica, did we close? No, we have, and we also have 21.8, right? That somebody asked to be separated to deal with, right, Monica? Is that where we are?
Yes, action
So-
item 21.18.
And I think, Ms. Green, that was your item that you asked to be separated out. So at this time, Ms. Green, would you care to discuss or comment?
I'm not sure because wasn't here last meeting, but if somebody could just provide me a little information on authorizing the rapid test, the COVID test. Just what does that look like? What are we doing exactly with that?
Stephen, can you unmute Ms. Tomasi so Ms. Tomasi can share some information about the antigen testing?
She's unmuted.
Mrs. Tomasi, are you there? Mrs. Tomasi? Mrs. Tomasi, are you there?
Oh, Lord.
Mrs. Tomasi? I see her name, so I know she's on.
She shows unmuted. Ms. Tomasi, if you're on a PC, make sure that you have unmuted your microphone on the PC itself and not just the app.
So we don't have a Ms. Tomasi. Can we get her? Or?
I know she's here, and she says she's trying to talk, but we can't hear her.
Okay. Let's give Stephen a second.
She shows unmuted on my end. There's not a whole lot I can do outside of her reconnecting her audio. Mrs. Tomasi, if you would go to your audio settings in the GoToWebinar program and check that your microphone is selected to the default microphone.
Okay. And at this time, I'd like to ask Mo. Mo, I don't know if you can find the minutes for this conversation, or maybe Superintendent, can you find the minutes for this conversation until we can get Ms. Tomasi so we can give Ms. Green a brief update?
Absolutely. And Ms. Green, did you have Board Member Green, did you have a specific question? Or did you just want information on what it is?
It'll be based on the information I received.
I'm sorry, say that again, Board Member Green.
Information I received from Ms. Tomasi or whomever.
So you just want information about the antigen testing? Is that, you kind of cut off, I didn't hear the first part.
So that's where I want to start.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Information I received.
Okay, I understand now, thank you.
At this time,
I mean, I'm not trying. Okay, let me just say this. I have concerns about the rapid tests. When I had COVID, I tested negative for 2 rapid tests. My PCR test is what let me know that I was actually positive. So that my concern is that if that's what we're doing, the rapid tests, how accurate are they? Because from my experience, they aren't accurate at all. My mom tested negative with her rapid test also, and she was also positive. So I'm not exactly sure because I wasn't on the last meeting, and I haven't got the information on. We're doing rapid tests for students, staff, community, or what are we doing with the rapid test?
okay. Thanks for your concerns, Ms. Green.
This is Eileen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I ran in the other room to get on another computer, so I missed the question.
I'm just trying to see what we're doing with rapid tests. Just give me a brief overview. We're rapid testing who? Students, staff, community, or what are we doing with the rapid test?
Okay, I'm sorry. Right now we're just doing staff. Any staff that wants to, it's done on a volunteer basis for people that have not been vaccinated and are asymptomatic. But we brought it to the board because if the students come back in school, we can offer the testing to the students also with permission from their parents.
Okay, that's what I didn't want to assume. That's what I thought. So again, me and my mom were asymptomatic. Rapid tests were negative. We were actually positive. I think rapid tests, and I've heard this from several medical professionals, are not reliable, and I know from experience that they're not. So that's why I think.
This is actually a screener. It is an antigen test. So if somebody tests positive on this, they're supposed to go get a PCR test. And I would recommend if somebody came to me and said they were having any symptoms, you should have a PCR test. But you're saying you had no symptoms and you tested negative on the antigen test. Yeah. I think it depends on the time that you get tested sometimes. Sometimes you test too early and you don't come up positive. But they're not perfect. But this is a screener. If somebody tests positive, then the recommendation is they go get a PCR test.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I'm going to say this. We had 2 rapid tests. We had one early on when we had COVID, and we had another one weeks into COVID, both negative rapid tests. PCR is what revealed that we were actually positive. So I'm not sure if that satisfies me. I still think it's unreliable. I still feel like it's, I mean, if you test positive for a rapid test, absolutely go get the PCR, absolutely. But like me, what if you test negative with no symptoms and I'm giving it to everybody around me? That's my concern. Rapid tests are not reliable. They're way when we had COVID, and both were negative. Not reliable at all. I don't know why. I mean, what are we doing this for? Because they're not reliable, and I think the science shows that.
These were the same. These were the same tests that were being used on athletes to detect outbreaks for them. And so then they opened it up and said we could test staff and we could test other students.
When you say athletes, student athletes, or what type of athletes are you speaking of?
Before they let us use it for staff and students, it was being used just for athletes. They had a test once a week or more often, depending on the sport.
Ms. Tomasi, yes. My was, are we talking about student athletes? Or are we talking about professional? What athletes are we talking about?
I'm sorry, it's student athletes, high school students.
Okay, so that you're saying that to say what though? I don't know why why is that? Does that mean it's more accurate, you think? I'm not sure what you're saying.
You asked about how the test came to be. Okay. The test was rolled out by MDHHS for student athletes at first, and then they rolled it out to staff and other students.
I actually asked, why are we doing it? We're doing it for what? Because it's accurate from my personal experience.
Okay. We are testing asymptomatic people to help catch outbreaks, so people don't know they have it, and they get tested in school and they test positive, and so we can send them home where normally we wouldn't have sent them home. They would have been in the buildings.
So again, my mother tested negative 2 times.
Okay. Hold on. So let me intervene for 1 second, because I don't think Ms. Tomasi is going to be able to address the screening. I think it needs to be a deeper conversation that you and her have as it pertains to how our students are being tested. And I don't know if Ms. Tomasi is prepared at this time to even accurately answer your questions. I'm not sure. I'm not saying, Ms. Tomasi, you don't know your stuff, but I'm just saying it seems like you guys aren't getting very far, and it's some information that Danielle is seeking that you might not have privy to. So, Ms. Tomasi, outside of addressing the screening process, I don't know if you can help Danielle. And I also saw Mr. Walker with his hand up. So, Danielle, do you mind if Mr. Walker jumps in and gets this question in? And then,
but I just got like 4 text messages of people who also tested negative.
No, I got you, Ms. Green. I'm not.
Okay, Mr. Walker.
No, I'm just trying to say, Ms. Tomasi, we need some more information on the screening process. I think Ms. Green is asking for that, and I don't know if you're equipped to ask that or answer those questions. Do you need enough time? Do you need time to sit with Ms. Green and get her concerns down solid so we can seek that information? Because it sounds like she has some valid concerns.
I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk with her and give her the paperwork that I have on the testing.
What would be in the paperwork? What is the paper? Okay, maybe I'm not asking a question like President Board McIntosh. What I'm asking is, from what I've seen and from my experience, the rapid tests are not reliable. So for me, why are we doing this? Because she said if they test positive, they go get her. Or what if they test negative like I did and several other people did? You know what I'm saying? Because they're not reliable. So I'm not sure how beneficial this rapid testing will be as a whole. That's all I'm saying.
I apologize. I don't have the information that I gave you the first week I presented, but there was a number of how many athletes we tested and how many tested positive. Is this test perfect? No, I don't think any of our tests are perfect, but the reason that the state recommended this was just to prevent outbreaks possibly of people that were asymptomatic. That does not mean we're going to catch every person. It's just another tool in our toolbox to try to keep staff and students safe.
Okay. Mr. Walker, jump in right quick?
Trustee Green, are you good?
Ms. Green?
Sorry, I'm not good, but you go ahead, Mr. Walker.
All right, all right. Yes, I just had a follow-up question for Ms. Tomasi based off of that and just the conversation that we've been having as it relates to the rapid test. I know I had a question in the Kyle meeting. She got back to me, and I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate your efforts as it relates to bringing this testing to the school district. But if by your words, you mentioned that PCR is more accurate. So in conversations with the state, is it possible to also see if we can get a supply of PCR testing? And I'm just thinking about access, right? So if we have, teachers or students who, they do the rapid and they show up positive, then we have to send them off. What happens if they don't have a way to get to maybe one of the other testing sites to get that PCR test? So I would just wonder, in conversations with the state, is it possible to also explore adding PCR to our toolkit?
I can absolutely ask them. I can absolutely ask them that question.
Okay.
Okay, so would that possibly also mitigate some of Ms. Green's concerns? Do you think with this test that Mr. Walker is speaking of, Ms. Tomasi?
It could. I don't think any of the tests are 100% accurate. We're always going to find people that are speaking just like Ms. Green is. They're just not perfect.
Okay, so am I hearing from the board, Ms. Green? Am I hearing from you, Ms. Green, that Ms. Green, would you like to make a motion to table this and allow Ms. Tomasi to get some more information for you and Mr. Walker, and maybe we could address these concerns? Okay, Ms. Wright, I see your hand, and we could maybe address these concerns in that meeting. Maybe she can.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure it's table if it's necessary, but I just want to tell Mr. Wilson, nobody's looking for perfection. I'm just sharing my experience and several other people that I know who have went through the same thing I did with the rapid testing. And we want to stack these in our favor. We're not looking for perfection. I would absolutely like to see the PCR test that Mr. Wilson talked about. That takes 2 to 7 days. And my concern with that is if somebody's tested, because she said asymptomatic people were testing. So if somebody's asymptomatic and then they did a PCR and it took 4 days to come back and been exposing other people, that's still a concern. I'm sure everywhere, not just in the school district, but absolutely nobody, like I said, nobody's looking for perfection, sharing my experience and my concerns. But I'm not sure if I think we need to table it. I don't think we need to table it. Mr. Walker?
No, I was going to say I don't think we need to table it either. Well, and
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that again. My experience has been a little bit different with the rapid. Like I know the inaccuracy for sure, but when I tested positive for COVID, it was via a rapid test, and I had symptoms too. There was a cost barrier at the time, but again, I have followed studies that have shown and talked about the inaccuracy of rapid testing. But it's something that we can have in our toolkit until we can see if we can get other testing. So I don't think it hurts, and I don't think we need to table it.
Okay, Ms. Wright, her hand up. Thank you, Mr.
You can move on.
Wright.
I'm okay. You can move on. I'm okay.
Okay. Now I think I'm at the portion where I need to make a motion to approve, but again, Monica, can you tell me where I'm at, because I'm so lost in the sauce at this point? Or to approve item I need to make a motion to approve this item with the rest of the batch, because we had it separated out and you've determined that we don't need to table it. No, I can't even make that motion now that I'm thinking about it. So at this point, Monica, can you tell me what's my next thing?
One of your board members need to make a motion to approve action item 21.18.
That's what I thought. So, and I can do it.
Approve 21.
Or your phone, you breaking up. You were muted. You were breaking up.
I make a motion to approve 21.18.
Support.
Okay, it's moved and properly seconded that we approve the action item. Are there any further discussions? Seeing none, the motion to approve action item 21.18, or is it 21.8, Monica? Because it says 8 packet.
Yeah, that my script, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's 21.18.
Okay, so seeing none, the motion to approve action item 21.18 will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Vice President Perry,
Yes.
Secretary,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee Walker,
Yes.
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
and myself, Carol McIntosh. The motion passes 7-0. New business action items and informations reports will be continued in your packet. Our reports from the Finance Department, and that's the check registry, 12.14, 12.15 balance sheet, 12.16 budget versus actuals, and 12.17 EDEP submission reports, all from the March 31st, 2021 board meeting. Do any board members have any questions for Ms. Donpre about these reports?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Secretary McIntyre, Treasurer McIntyre.
So with permission, President McIntosh, to Ms. Dumpre, could you include a report of your meeting with the Treasury? I know that you'd mentioned at the meeting that you had to meet with the Treasury and then you subsequently met with them. Is there some way to bring us up to speed on the financial deficit elimination plan or lack thereof, and kind of what's moved forward with that, and our request to get appraisals on the property so that we can move forward with making a more timely and salient budget for the circumstances in which we now find ourselves?
So I had a conversation with the Treasury Department. I meet with them bi-weekly to discuss our EDEP. So what we were trying to do for the EDEP was that we had 4 pieces of information that we needed, that we requested from Treasury with the grant reimbursement program, which was a pupil enrollment study, facilities assessment, and a building utilization, and a program assessment. And we requested grant reimbursement for it. Treasury has submitted an MOU to us, and it will come to the finance subcommittee meeting on May the 2nd. And the MOU states that they're going to give us reimbursement for the services to perform those 4 items I just mentioned to you. And it will be with Plant Moran Cressa for them to reimburse us for those services. That's what the MOU states, Plant Moran Cressa as the vendor.
But we have to agree to that, right? It hasn't come before us yet, or it has?
It has not come before you yet. It will come to the finance subcommittee meeting on May the 2nd. And then you can accept the MOU or not. But in the MOU, that's what it states.
So my concern, as you probably well know, is that the 4 things that we requested were not bundled. They're separate items. One is not predicated on the other. There's no sequential sequence to the order in which this information has to be obtained. And yet, that is precisely what is being done in the agreement with the state and the Treasury in creating this MOU. So I would like to ask specifically where we're at with the information on the appraisals for the building, because it was my understanding that the board as a whole asked for an assessment of our properties and the resources that we had so that we would at least have a foundation on which to think about where we stood financially and start to formulate different scenarios and decisions. And I'm concerned because it's now the end of April. We were supposed to have finalized a budget deficit elimination plan, last month? And of course, thankfully, we have circumstances which give us a little bit more leeway and district autonomy, but it begs the question, where's the appraisals? And that's all I want. I mean, I understand the enrollment, program evaluations, all that kind of thing is very important. It's information that we also need, but they're not contingent on one another. So where are the building appraisals?
So,
And can we get an MOU? Can we get something without all this rigmarole and bureaucratic, for lack of a better word, nonsense?
so,
Board Member McIntyre, so one of the items is for an RFP, and for us to be reimbursed for the RFP for a realtor who would help us with the appraisals. If so, it is the board's desire for us not to use the reimbursement grant for the appraisal and for the district to spend funds to do that. I just need a board member to make a motion and for it to be supported for us to use our own funds. We were seeking an alternate way of being able to pay for this by Mrs. Dumpre applying for the grant so that we can receive reimbursement from MDE to be able to facilitate some of this and then to be able to spend district funds in other areas. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Board Member McIntyre.
I said this, we've been over this. This is not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's not a matter of, are we willing to have somebody else pay for it, or are we going to accept grants? I mean, if we're going to bear the onus of the financial burden on the district, yes, if it is possible, if we can get a grant for these services, that is fantastic. However, the issue is not whether we're going to squander money or not. The issue is whether these 4 things that we've requested are bundled together and predicated on one another in the MOU. And what I am saying is the way that this whole thing has been constructed has been taken, I think, hopefully innocently out of the context of what the board has asked for. Maybe there's a mistake, maybe there's some confusion, but what we've asked for are 4 separate things. And we want the appraisal, so the RFP is not just for the appraisal, it's for the project assessment, it's for the enrollment study, it's for everything. And that's not what we asked for. So this RFP, the MOU, is prolonging our getting access to this pertinent information. And my question is, can we unbundle this? Can we have it in separate RFPs? Can we have separate studies done? And why, second question, why was Plant Moran the vendor chosen? And please don't answer with me with they're on the approved vendor list, because I've asked for a list of the approved vendors so I can see the rest of the vendors that we have to select from. My question is specifically why it was Plant Moran chosen. If it's because they're on the approved vendor list, that's not a satisfactory answer because there are other vendors on there. Why Plant Moran above everybody else? And why is it taking so long? And why is pupil enrollment, building assessment, program assessment, appraisals, why is it all together?
Board Member McIntyre. Plant Moran Cressa was chosen because MDE has utilized their services with several school districts, and they have provided the information that has been used and been proven to be pertinent in making decisions. And they have found that they are the vendor in the area that can provide the best services that we need in this area. There are no other vendors that can provide this service that we need. There are approved vendors for other services, but not for this service that we need for the pupil enrollment study, the facility
Right, but that's not what I'm asking, is it? Is it?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Dumpray, please pause, please stop. Board Member McIntyre, I would ask that you make a motion of what it is specifically that you're requesting and receive support from the board so that administration can move forward on your specific request.
Hold on. I'd like to jump in here and say something. I think what she is asking is what was spoken of on Monday. We were told about pupil enrollment. It was 4 pieces. One of the pieces were assessments of building, pupil enrollment, and 2 other things. And in that meeting, she specifically asked for a financial breakdown of the cost of each element so that if this board's desire was to divide those job duties up and have multiple approved vendors work simultaneously for the sake of time constraints. Could that be done? And I think in that meeting, Ms. Dumpray said there were also other vendors that were approved to receive these same grant options other than Plan Moran. So I think her question was a continuation of the meeting from Monday. Am I hearing you right, Ms. Laurel, so that we can move in and then also enable us to get the appraisals? Is that where you're going, Ms.
Yes,
Laurel?
but it's not just the meeting on Monday. This is a request that we've had from the beginning about these appraisals, and the meeting Monday shed some light on why nothing has moved forward and why we haven't gotten the information that we've specifically requested. And Plant Moran is not the only person who can provide appraisals for our properties and our buildings. Yes, maybe if you were going to bundle enrollment projects, all that kind of stuff together, but we're not, I just explained, I thought very clearly that that's not what the board requested.
Okay, what were you saying,
Board President, administration is just seeking that a motion be made by Board Member McIntyre of her specific request, and it be supported by the board so that we can know what the specific request is of the full board, please.
Okay, Laura, just one second. Laura, so she's asking that you make a motion and specific in your motion so we can get it on the proper notice of what you're requesting. And I think also Board Member McNeil had a question.
Can I
I
ask
defer
a
to
question?
McNeil.
Yeah, I think, and I know what Trustee McIntyre is saying is that we have some people with some things on their agenda. And because it's already out in the public about selling property, and we know that we might have a 1 or 2 proposal, and they have to make business decisions. And we told them 2 or 3 months ago that we was going to have this done. As professionals and educators, what I think I'm understanding what Chairperson McIntyre is saying is that we need these appraisal up front, ASAP, because it's going on, 2 or 3 months. And we have some people that have these proposals in front of us. And it's not fair to them that we keep putting them on hold and we keep saying it's going to be done. And we're trying to do debt elimination. So I'm thinking, I'm understanding that we just want this separate for right now so we can move forward. That's not a big request. That's a business request. And we got people blowing up our phone trying to get in. They want to have conversation about this property. And we got to get past being messy. We are educators. And everybody understands exactly what Ms. McIntyre is asking for. And we just want these appraisals. That's what we started out with. 2 or 3 things that we started out with: strategic plan and these appraisals. And here it is, April going into May, and everybody's still, and these are educators, 6 figures educators, and they seem to have like, we're not making ourselves clear. I don't know how clear can we go.
So Board Member McNeil, so here's where I'm confused. So I do remember when the board requested for appraisals, and I immediately requested for appraisals from my team. There was some problems. There was a glitch with where we thought appraisals were coming from, and then we later found out that that company couldn't do the appraisals. So then we started seeking we started talking about hiring a realtor so that the realtor can sell our properties, can one, get our properties appraised and could sell our properties. In the meantime of doing that, Mrs. Dumpre sought a grant for the district so that the district would not have to spend any of their funds for the facilities assessment, nor for the services of an appraisal. And so that's where we come to with this grant, with this reimbursement grant from MDE, right? And so we were trying to do it so that we didn't have to spend any of our district funds. We could spend other funds and then utilize our district funds for some other place. Now, MDE was willing to do all of this, and we received a price from a company with all of those things bundled. Board Member McIntyre did ask for all of those things to be separated out from the bundle. And Mrs. Dumpre is in the process of getting those things separated out from MDE. But I want the board to understand that all of these pieces we need at the same time. Like the board needs the appraisals, the board needs the facilities assessment so that it can inform our decisions around the EDEP. But administration also needs the enrollment assessment because we're preparing for the 21-22 school year, and we wanted to have staffing done or completed by May 1st. And so the enrollment assessment would help us with the pieces that we need for staffing. So these are things that we need simultaneously, and it's not that, so I understand that the board might have more weight on one, but the district also needs the other, and it's just as important. And so we're trying to move all of these pieces together at the same time. And we're not trying to disregard the board's request for appraisals. We're just trying to get them all done.
But in the process of getting them all done, they've somehow become bundled together, and one is predicated on the other, and that's stopping the whole entire process from moving forward in a timely manner. So it just seems like what you're saying, that all these things need to be done. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. However, having them done in the way that the MDE and the Treasury is requiring has somehow put this off by a couple of months. And it's not getting done. We're not getting the information. So there's something that maybe there's something I'm missing. I don't think so, but I really don't think so. But we need all of this information, and somehow it's getting more convoluted than it's getting clearer.
Okay, may I just jump in for 1 second? Board Member Walker, did you want to say something?
This is just going to be, I don't know if I'll be able to get an answer from it, but my, feedback that I'm just wondering about relates to like the actual timeline for when we will get the information. I know we've been having this conversation for months, and I know there's certain things that need to happen in order for things to, be put in place. But I think it's helpful to understand a potential timeline where we could possibly get the information from a planning standpoint, so we can at least wrap our mind around that. But again, I respect Trustee McIntyre's, position that she's coming from, as I have to those conversations as well.
But some of these things that we're saying have to be in place do not have to be in place. So obstacles are being put up in front of us, and they're red herrings. And I'm getting a little frustrated with it, and I apologize, but I don't know what else to do. We've asked for this information.
And let me say this as it pertains to the appraisals on the vacant buildings, which I don't think this is what Board McIntyre is speaking of, but just in case, in the name of transparency, I am going to share the information that myself and the superintendent ended up having to move forward in. When we spoke to the realtor, they were not able to do what we thought they were going to be able to do, and what was suggested to us that they would be able to do. So once it happened, superintendent set up an appointment with the real estate attorney from their side of the house, work for the administration. And this is what I spoke with you guys about at the last meeting. He is prepared to come before us so he can share the information and try to get this thing moving. We don't have anybody right now that can do the appraisals for us or are doing the appraisals. The superintendent is going to put out an RFP so we can get a real estate company, and as well as he comes, I think the day he's supposed to come is May 2nd. Actually, Mo hooked that appointment up for us here recently. So Mo, is that May 2nd date proper? Do you recall?
He's coming to the board committee of the whole on May 12th.
Okay, May 12th. That's what I meant, May 12th. Okay, now at that point, I still don't know if this will alleviate Board Member McIntyre's frustrations, and I don't even think that pertains to this piece, but I'm thinking once we get the real estate attorney before us and this board can make some decisions, because we can't pick a realtor or we can't pick a real estate attorney without bringing it before the full board. So that does slow this process down a little bit. In the name of being transparent, we can't make decisions without you guys. And so we're trying to bring these people for you as expeditiously as we can while staying within the guidelines. And I'm hoping that when we speak to him on the 12th, maybe whatever solutions he offers to us, we can vote for this same company to maybe give us appraisals on our open buildings as well, so we can have that piece done. I'm not saying any of that done, but that is the only works that I possibly help us move this thing forward. Superintendent, would you like to chime in on that?
No, thank you, Board President, for explaining the hiccups that we've experienced along the way. I appreciate it.
Okay, so at this point, as far as the piece with what Laura is frustrated about, I don't know. I'm gonna turn that back over to Ms. Don Prey and Superintendent, because I don't know what else to do besides try to get somebody before us and try to get these RFPs out so that we can take care of the business. And then it's up to them. I guess it's on the administration side of the house to handle that, because I don't want to be proper or improper or out of my lane. So I don't know where we go from there, and nor have I explored that option, because I figured after our conversation that they would be able to possibly address that issue. So I guess I don't know, Board McIntyre or Superintendent or Ms. Donpre, which way are we to go with this thing? Can these things happen by more than one company? Do we know if they can? How many companies are approved for this same grant through the MDE? Can we get any information on that? So maybe we can do all these things at the same time and still obtain the grant. Is the stipulation stating that the grant has to go to one company for all 4 pieces? Can we break that up? What options do we have?
There are stipulations within the grant if so MDE is going to award us the funds, and if so we're not willing to abide by the stipulations, then the district may have to come out of, use the district's funds to pay for these items. And so we will get back with you with what the stipulations are. And then the board can make a decision as to whether or not they want to move forward with the grant, or whether or not the board wants the district to pay for these things, utilizing the district's own funds.
So am I hearing that this needs to be a table situation? You can get us that information?
This isn't on, well, I don't think this item is on the floor. It's not on the agenda. But
Okay.
Mrs. Donpre did state that it would be an agenda item in May. And
Okay.
so when it comes to the board in May, then the board can vote whether or not they want to move forward, or whether or not they do not want to move forward with it.
Oh, I thought it was
Well,
on
I
the
would
floor.
like to make a motion that we bring this item forward to the special meeting as well, and that we actually have the stipulations of the grant, because at this point we're getting into May,
Mhm.
right? And that we could be provided with the stipulations of the grant, and that we do have maybe a breakdown of these
Okay.
4 things, and we can get just information with a timeline, with costs, so we can actually make decisions and move this forward.
Okay, the motion has been made. Do I hear a second? Okay, Ms. seconded. So the motion has been made, it's been properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing there is no further discussion at this time, I'll take a roll call vote as to add this to our special meetings discussion. As I call your name, please say yes or no for your approval. Vice President Perry,
Nay.
Jerry Green,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntyre,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer McNeil,
Yes.
Trustee Walker,
Yes.
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
and myself, Carol McIntosh. It's a yes for me. The motion passes 6 yes, 1 no. Okay, moving on, still on new business action items and information reports. In your packet are reports from the Finance Department. Item number 1214, check registry. Item number 1215, balance sheet. Item number 1216, budget versus actual. Did I already go over this? I think I just did this. I'm sorry, board. I think I've lost my page. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Also in your packet is the comparative membership report from March 26, 2021, which is pages 73 and 75 through 75. Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Jones about this report? Okay. Board members, at this time, we will receive the update on the extended COVID-19 learning plan. We will give the public an opportunity to comment after we have heard the update. Community members, if you wish to speak, please make sure you raise your hand or submit a comment in the chat during the presentation to alert Stephen to call upon you after Mr. Jones is done speaking. I now turn the floor over to Mr. Jones.
All right. Hello, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Jones, we hear
All right.
you.
I hope all is well. All right, Stephen, you can go to the next slide. I just wanted to give you some information. Go ahead, Stephen. Yep. Of what the return to remote learning looks like for teachers and support staff and our learners. Our scholars return to the distance learning schedule, which includes 3 hours of live synchronous lessons, morning and afternoon intervention, which could be asynchronous and also synchronous, which includes 3 hours in the course of the day. 1 day a week food distribution covering all 5 days. This has been found to be better for parents to not have to go back and forth to the schools to pick up lunches. And also teachers and paraprofessionals distance learning schedule includes 3 hours of live synchronous teaching, morning and afternoon intervention, and guided instruction as well. And then our support staff, our wellness teams are going back to calling families. Over the last month, there's been 8,413 completed calls and 118 total home visits from the district. Technology support, they're going back to support with technology, making phone calls, ensuring scholars are doing well with technology, getting that information to the proper folks to either switch out technology or to assist as they can. They're also visiting classrooms to support teachers with scholar needs and continuing their normal duties. That consists of social workers and parent facilitators of supporting staff and scholars as well. This year, I wanted to just let you know what the testing requirements looked like and what we are doing in our district. This was given by MDE. The Michigan Department of Education and its assessment vendors have worked together to provide flexibilities for the spring 2021 administration of the following assessments, as you can see below. The main flexibility provided is additional test days and extended testing windows. Another flexibility for spring 2021 that applies to all assessment relates to students who are receiving remote only instruction. That's all of our scholars at this time. For this year only, MDE does not support requiring otherwise remote or virtual students to be brought into school solely for the purpose of state assessment. Districts must offer remote or virtual students the opportunity to come in to school to take the appropriate state summative assessments. We are doing that. All of our schools have called scholar parents, scholar families to allow the option for our scholars to come in and start testing. That has been done. Our principals and myself are meeting this week just to solidify that our busing is happening for our scholars, and this testing will start on Monday for all of our scholars. And so we are giving the option and encouraging our scholars for informational purposes to come in and take the M-STEP test along with the PSAT and SAT. The first testing window for grades 5, 8, and 11 has been extended by 2 weeks for a total of 6 weeks. It now runs April 12th. The window opened April 12th, and it will end May 21st for 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. Go ahead, Stephen. Thank you. The second testing window for grades 3, 4, 6, and 7 has been extended by 2 weeks for a total of 6 weeks. It now runs April 26th through June 4th. My Access Flexibilities testing window extension. The My Access testing window has been extended also for a total of 8 weeks. It now runs April 12th through June 4th. Principals, teachers, support staff, safety advocates, etc., are all assisting and ensuring testing is administered and the environment is conducive for scholars to do their best. Food is provided throughout the testing cycle. Our enrollment for the last month, as you can see, we are at 3277 with a 69% daily attendance rate. I think with the change of coming back to school and then going back to remote, we've seen some decline in some of our attendance with decisions going back and forth, but I'm sure and optimistic about next month that should rise. Next. And finally, the meal distribution to date, as you can see, we are at 1.8 million since March 16th of 2020 when this pandemic started. We just like to thank all of our teachers, all of our parapros, principals, and staff who's making all of this possible for our scholars. You all work hard, and I want you to hear the administration tell you we appreciate you. And board, we thank you for all of your hard work and efforts towards making the right decisions for our scholars. And that concludes our report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
You're welcome.
Stephen, do we have any community members that would comment about the plan?
Not at this time, Board President.
Okay. Does any board members have any questions about the plan? At this time, I would like to give the public final opportunities to address the board before we adjourn. Stephen, please check and let me know if anyone has raised their hand or submitted a question to speak in the chat.
All right, looks like I do have one hand raised. Looks like Jennifer Tremaine. I will unmute Jennifer now. Jennifer, you
Hello,
are
Madam
unmuted
President.
and feel free to start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President and members of the board, my name is Jennifer Tremaine.
Yeah.
I live at 13100 Jennings Road, Linden, and I am the proud graduate of Flint Southwestern. Woohoo! I'm not going to tell you the year I graduated at the risk you're good at math and will know my age. I am here for the purpose of introducing myself to let you know that I have officially registered to run for the GISD Board of Education. I currently sit on the Mott Foundation Board of Directors. I've sat on the YWCA Board of Directors for 10 years and am as qualified as any candidate to represent you for the GISD. I am a realtor for 18 years. We've been open for business, Tremaine Real Estate, for 35 years. And even though I graduated from Flint Southwestern, I live in Linden. I have an office in Grand Blanc and an office in Fenton, and my son went to Lake Fenton. So I'm very affiliated with 5 of the 21 school districts. With that, does anyone have any questions for me?
How does it go?
Thank you very much, and I'd be honored to get your vote in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, we do have a few hands being raised. Next, I believe I was alerted earlier, is Mr. Blake Strozier. I'll unmute Mr. Strozier. Mr. Strozier, unmuted. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you may begin when you're ready.
Good evening to the board. It's been a couple months. I wish you all the best. To Mrs. McIntosh, I've watched this meeting from beginning to end almost, and I must give you a lot of credit for handling this meeting very well. You are to be commended, ma'am. I know the tremendous sacrifices and things that you all are facing right now are things that have been going on for years. My only suggestion and request is, and this may be a little comical, but please don't turn to the city council. The school board in Flint is a lot more, in my opinion, is a lot more honorable because we deal with the students and the future of our community. And so to have a constant battle of argumentation with administration and board, there are different ways it can be handled. So my advice to our board members that are currently seated is to remember that our work should be in collaboration, not in competition, and to follow the rule and the board bylaws that are in place. And more importantly, just understand that we do have a lot of people that are counting on the future of this district. And so not to lose sight of that. I know Mrs. McIntyre made a good point a couple minutes ago when she raised the question about our properties. To be honest with you, for 9.5 years, Ms. McIntyre, we constantly had issues with properties and with real estate in the district because of the main issue that we could never get a consistent answer from anyone in the district about how much properties. So my constant concern is always that we just look for the future, because if we don't prepare for the future of Flint Community Schools, then we won't have a future of Flint Community Schools. So with that being said, I'm going to go back to enjoying retirement, have a good rest of the evening, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, Blake.
Okay, next hand raised is Betty Nostrant. Betty, I've unmuted you. Feel free to mute your microphone and begin when you are ready.
I am very happy to see all of you, and I think you guys are all doing an amazing job. My biggest concern is the special needs students right now and their needs getting met, and I don't think that they all are. And I'm wondering if there is any way that we can somehow work out a way to make sure that more special needs kids are getting their needs met during this time of remote learning. Because I'm the mom of 5 special needs kids, 4 of which are on IEPs. One's on a 504. And none of them are getting their needs met and haven't for over a year. And it's very hard. And I've gotten very little help from the schools.
Okay. Superintendent, can we get you to get her information and get in contact with her so we can try and get her some assistance, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there anything else, ma'am? I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, I'm so happy with the things that you guys have been doing for our community. And I really appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Mr. Arthur Woodson. Mr. Woodson, I've unmuted you. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you are ready.
Yes, I'm not going to speak too long because you already know where I stand with the MOU and transparency. And it's sad that, you know, we hearing different things. Now, when we first saw the MOU, it said that they would own 6 schools. Mott would own the schools, and the Flint Community School would lease the schools from Mott. Is that still the same thing? And because in the paper it's saying that the Flint Community Schools will own the schools. So did that change? Are you going by what that first MOU said, or are you going by what this new MOU that's in the newspaper? Are you going by that? See, because it's mixed signals out here, and that's why transparency is the best thing ever, because everybody would be on one accord, one page. And when you start hiding things and things start leaking out, we start seeing trickery and different things going on. People get in position and they forget about the people who voted them in. They forget about the small people. And everything in this master plan is done outside of the north side and the east side. And I see in there it says that, you know, the city gonna clean up blight and all this around the schools. Well, then guess what? Y'all probably won't even build the school on the north side, because you're trying, in the master plan, they trying to get everybody from on the north side. So before you sign on to this MOU, let us see where you planning on building these schools at. And let us see what schools are going to be built first, because this is a non-binding agreement. So they can build a high school, Central and Whittier, and say, you know what, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to do any more schools. And you can't hold them to it, because in the MOU it states and clearly that it's a non-binding agreement. So that's one thing that you got to look at. And then you're getting $114 million. What you plan on doing with it? When do you get it? What can you spend it on? Are you all having meetings about that? I mean, you know, can the public know, you know, what discussion is about this 114 million? Can you talk about it before you get it? I mean, we would really like to know. And then a PNC loan, whatever happened with that loan, and what was it for? We never got the answer for that, because I was wanting to know, and Lopez never gave us the answer. So can we get the answer to what was that PNC loan for? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have, looks like one more hand raised from Claire McClinton. Claire, I've unmuted you on my end. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you are ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what the previous speaker was speaking about this MOU. It was published in East Village Magazine, this bright, shiny new plan to revitalize the Flint schools. And I'm old enough to know when bright, shiny objects were brought to the community and they turned out for naught. And one of those bright, shiny objects, do everybody remember Auto World? That was supposed to be the engine that put Flint back on the map, and it was a dud. So be careful about flashy flash. Any kind of agreement, we have an opportunity in a lifetime with the Biden proposals and the Biden money that's being put into the Flint community schools. And instead of a top-down plan, we need a bottom-up plan. And so that means constant communication and input from the community. That plan should come out of the voices of the community, especially parents and children. And I don't know if they published the whole thing, but in the East Village Magazine article, I saw nothing there about parents, teachers, support staff, or any of that. And that's very concerning, because I see this as the power brokers taking advantage of this infusion of big money that's coming into the Flint community schools. So be careful with that, because we got our beloved IMA auditorium bulldozed for a false promise. And we also got false promises on the master plan developed in 2013. How do you have a master plan in 2013 and you have a water disaster in 2014 and the master plan is the same? How does that happen? That shouldn't happen. We had a disaster in this town. Reset the master plan. We had a pandemic here. Reset the master plans. There is no elementary school in the 3rd ward. Reset the master plans. Do not squander the opportunity to catapult.
Did we lose Miss Claire?
It appears so. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she's still unmuted. But it looks like we may have lost her.
Okay. Is there anybody else out there in our chat?
Get one more scan. I believe that is it for tonight.
Okay, and she didn't try to chime back in at this point?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, before we adjourn, would any board members like to make a comment? Then Ms. McIntyre, then Mr. Walker, then Ms. McNeil. Ms. Green, you're
So, yeah, I am going to speak very plainly, especially in terms of this, what previous commenters have said, and in terms of the MOU. I think the MOU that was disclosed by East Village Magazine is indicative of how things are operating in this district and in this city. And it is not, I am speaking as an individual board member, not as the board, but I'm dismayed with the fact that this is the 8th iteration of an MOU that I've only just now seen starting last week. And I've been around since before the water crisis, working on school to prison pipeline stuff from 2008 onward. And it's this information that we have in the MOU now is information that the public was trying to get access to way, way back when. And so it's very, very interesting to me to see some of the details of this MOU and to see who some of the signers are on this MOU. And I think, as Ms. McClinton rightly pointed out, you can tell how top down our decision making is in this city and how it needs to be more bottom up, more community oriented. Where are the parents? Where are the students? Where are the community members? And like I said, I am dismayed. This is the 8th iteration of this. And shame on you, Mr. Ford, for writing an article without asking any investigative journalistic reporting questions whatsoever. Just, here you go, here's wow. And then let me call up Mr. White and ask him, you know, about his wonderful plan and how great it is and how he typed it out himself. That's not acceptable. And this is a new board. This is a new community. We're not going to have more taken away from us. The funds are coming directly to the school board. They're not being it's not being mediated by the GISD. It's not being mediated by the county. And so it's really, really interesting to look at this MOU and to look at some of the details that have been purposely kept from us and hidden from us for over a decade. I remember being on a superintendent subcommittee with Superintendent Tawwab and making a joke that I was going to have to run for the board in order to get some information because the information was being kept from us. And ironically, the information is still being kept from us and kept from the board members. And this is by design. Ms. Clinton talked about a master's plan, and Dr. Calvin Harvell, who is a graduate of Flint schools, has always called it the master's plantation. And that's exactly what it is. This is the master's plan for us without our input and without our agreement whatsoever. And individually, this isn't something that I would sign. And it's not even up to me as an individual board member. It hasn't even come before the board. It needs to come before the board. It needs to become before the board president. It needs to become before the superintendent. If it has come before the superintendent, we don't know anything about it. So this, I have a lot to say, and I don't want to dominate, and I don't want to, and I already am, but I just wanted to make it real plain to the community and to the people who put me in this position, because this is exactly why I was put on the board, is to bring things like this to light and to challenge them and to highlight that. And I'm not running away from this, and I'm not afraid of these so-called stakeholders who are actually our gatekeepers. They're the ones that got the school district in this mess, and so they are no longer valued community or valued stakeholders or partners in my eyes. For me, the stakeholders and the valued partners in our school district are the parents and the teachers and the staff and the students. Those other people who are on the signatory lines of that MOU, that non-binding document that hasn't even passed before the board, they're second to the students and to the parents and to the teachers. Make no mistake about that.
Thank you, Ms.
That's where I'm at, and I definitely have more to say, but let's just say that's where I will start. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Green. Thank you, Ms. McIntyre. You're muted, huh?
You hear me? I'm sorry. I just want to say kudos to you, President McIntosh, for not signing that MOU. And it makes me wonder, when we were in Lansing, myself and a couple of other board members with Dr. Lopez, when we sat with Dr. Rice, Ridgway White, and some other people at the table, he presented a proposal, is what he called it. But this MOU seems like a version of that. No other board members got it. I was trying to find it before I came to Atlanta. I couldn't find it, but I feel like we do lack transparency. We need to be more open, inclusive. And for me as a board member, for my people who put me in my seat, I'm gonna always be open and transparent, no matter who likes it or not. That's what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, that's unfortunate. That's what I'm going to do. I was put here for that, and that's what Danielle does. But again, President McIntosh, kudos to you, because I'm not sure. I mean, I'm confused about an MOU. And like I said, I'm curious to know, once we do get a copy, because I know you requested that the board gets a copy of the prior version and the edited version. Haven't got that. I want to compare it to that proposal that Ridgway, it seemed like we should have jumped on it immediately. And I didn't think we should. It was myself and some other board members. But for me, it made me question the motives. Because when I looked at it, I'm like, wow, this can't be. And I wasn't the only one at the table. Dr. Rice seemed to be confused too. I just want us to keep pushing, keep holding people accountable. And this master's plan that I keep hearing about is not a plan for us. It's not a plan for the Flint Community Schools. At least not for us to own the Flint Community Schools. We need to keep pushing. And I appreciate everybody who's doing that on this board. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Mr. Walker?
Yep, I just had two quick things. The first one was just a point of information, and it goes back to our conversation earlier around contracts. I don't know if we have like a list of contracts that come up for renewal, and if not, I would love to kind of see that for planning purposes. Does anything like that exist that we as a board have access to in terms of understanding when contracts are coming up? That way we can better plan for conversations that lie ahead.
I have never seen a list of the people that are coming up. I know every year certain contracts are up for renewal. Some contracts go for more than a year. But I'm not aware of anything like that. Superintendent, are you aware of anything like that?
Board Member Walker, are you speaking of vendors or are you speaking of people?
Sorry, vendors
Okay.
for this, yeah.
I'm not aware that the board has ever received a list of vendors that come up for contract, but it's definitely something that we can take into consideration and work on.
Yeah, I just think it'll be helpful for our planning purposes. And then again, I think since we found out how much money we will be getting from the federal government, I spoke about the importance of that. And I just wanted to say another thing as it relates to those dollars. I think historically there's always been this conversation as it relates to the academic achievement gap as it relates to students in urban school districts versus affluent school districts. And I think we use the term achievement gap. But to be honest, I think in the words of theorist Gloria Ladson-Billings, I think we have to call it what it is. And it's been an education debt of the foregone resources that, if we're honest, just has never been invested in school districts like ours. And again, I think we have to honestly be honest about that. With that being said, I do want to thank our federal partners, especially Congressman Kildee, for fighting against lobbying efforts that was going on at the state, to try and overturn I believe it's a Title I-A formula that these dollars were dispersed on. And they fought to keep that in place. And I believe the Title I-A formula is an equitable formula that would allow school districts like ours that are operating in a city that has been hit very hard by COVID meet our scholars where they are. And I also just wanted to be clear, I'm not saying that COVID hasn't impacted every school district, but I am saying that I think it's a gross misjudgment to say that every school district has been impacted by COVID the same. So with that being said, I'm really looking forward to the conversations that we'll be having with community about the investments of these dollars, along with my other board colleagues as well as the administration. So I just wanted to bring that up as well as it relates to those dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Dr. Joyce, did you want to chime in and say anything?
Yeah, it's going to be short. I want to chime in first of all because I'm an adult and I'm a great leader and a great educator, and I also great leaders come back and apologize. President McIntosh.
Yes, ma'am.
We as new board member came on this board lacking information to make good decision. Parents, child, teacher. That's where I'm at. And every time we was trying to get good, adequate information, because we're the new kids on the block, the finger will point it back to you. How do you provide this information to your new boards? And we put you in a heck of a position last meeting. We was not attacking you. We was trying to get information.
Yes, ma'am.
And that attack upon you caused you to birth out information that we never did see. And when I first came on the board, I'm looking for the strategic plan, debt elimination. The way you get out of debt elimination, you go from the old plan into a new plan, which is your MOU is stating that very clearly. But because we put that pressure on you, you gave us information that we did not have. Because we cannot make valid decisions for this community with hidden information. How many people and kids gotta die before truth? What is so hard to do right by those little ones? What is so hard to give a parapro $15 an hour? What is so hard? And I see what our problem is. It's kind of like me. I gained some weight, so I'm top heavy, which makes my knees hurt. So to get the pressure off of my knees, I got to lose some weight. Does that make sense? So we got to stop looking at the top and take something from the top so we can lift people up. And if you have not given me that information, I couldn't go by this book. This is the first book they gave us. Am I right? And I could not, because it's so murky, I could not make valid decision. And I think we all educated, masters in public administration, all kind of this, but Flint is not going down like that anymore. It's time for us to rise above. My understanding about your MOU, that it was recommended that you bring it back to the board and we look at it and we amend it and we do different things to it. And the next thing I know, we're reading it in a newspaper, having the public to think that you got some board members that does not have their interest. The board had absolutely nothing to do with it. We never saw it. When we saw that MOU, it was an execution motion. So I owe you an apology because I made the motion on you. So accept my apologies. I think you're going to make a great president because it starts with integrity and honest. So
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you for recognizing. And just to be clear, that information that I gave the board, I did not receive until Friday or Saturday myself. And when I received it, I immediately dispersed it to my board. I could not give it to them because I didn't have it. Okay? I had heard of it. I had seen it on the screen in other people's grasp, but I never had my hands on it. And so that is why I was not able to share the information, and I apologize to my fellow board members and the public because I felt like I was in the twilight zone because I had no understanding of what you guys were even asking of me. I honestly did not know what you were talking about. So I want to apologize as it pertains to how I handled things as well. I did take it as a personal attack, but I have to say I sit in this position, so I am going to have to be forced to broaden my shoulders and sometimes carry the weight of the world, even though it is not mine to carry. And I've accepted the job, so I have to put forth a better effort. And I want my board to understand I am here to support this district. I am not here for sly dog moves. I don't have a dog in this fight other than to make my community proud and to get some parents who didn't know how to get their students services or the education that they so much deserve and desire for their students, the same opportunity and education that I was given in this community. And I want everyone to understand that it is always our board, this entire board. We appreciate, first of all, your comments, and we want you to know that it's always our intention to operate in the spirit of transparency. First and foremost, I have nothing to hide, and the things that were spoken on last week, I don't know if I think maybe I should have included the superintendent in some of those things. I did speak with her, but I never invited her. Nor did she ever say she'd like to come, but that is my problem because I should have invited her. The only thing I did was try to get Whittier. My plan was to try and get Whittier and Central knocked down and a new school possibly built there with free dollars from the federal government. And when somebody told me that that could be possible for my community and my district, I got excited. And I might have overstepped my boundaries because Whittier and Central has been sitting there a long time. I constantly get emails and calls about Whittier and Central. It's open. It's trash around. It's a dog on the roof. It's this, it's that. Somebody fell through all kind of stuff constantly. So when I heard of this great opportunity, I dared not sleep on it. And so I did make an attempt to try to bring that before the board so we can seize that moment. And maybe I was out of line. However, I did check my bylaws, and bylaw 1050, I think it was 1150F and 1150 actually support all the moves that I made. It does speak of me having the right to solicit. Like they said, the bylaws are murky. It is not very specific. So if I misread them or done something wrong, I'm going to apologize first to my community, and whom my first priority is to serve you. That's why I'm here, to make sure your children and the parents in this community get the help and the support they need. Secondly, to be a great board member to my fellow constituents and to be of assistance to this administration. That's the only reason why I'm here. So I thank you for this opportunity. Are there any other board members that would like to speak?
I would like for Miss Danielle to show me that grandbaby. Stop hiding that grandbaby.
Yay!
You got to show that grandbaby.
Show that grandbaby, girl. Hey, Precious! Danielle, what's his name?
His name is Jay Martin Collins.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
That's my scholar.
Yes. All righty. Are there any other board members? Okay. The board's next committee of a whole meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night.
Bye.